So I get what you're saying, but I don't really agree. If there were more Christians in number, then yeah, I think that they would want to see policies that make them feel as though they're being effective Christians in legislation, so that larger number of Christians would be able to make that happen via the legislature. But scripture also says narrow is the path that leads to salvation. So having a larger number of people who consider themselves under the umbrella of Christianity doesn't necessarily mean that there are more genuine Jesus followers. And this is maybe a little dark, but being a Christian, having the experience of being a Christian be really, really easy doesn't really give rise to people having to have their faith be held tightly and be very genuine. It's very, very easy in our country to think that you're a Christian, but not really ever have it tested, you know? Like, we're not having to find ways around the government to meet at church. We're not having to pray in secret and keep little scraps of the Bible on pieces of paper around our house to be able to read scripture. There aren't really many scenarios where we're challenged in our faith at all, or have to back up our faith at all. Of course, I can only speak from my own experience, but the biggest crisis I've had as far as defending my faith has been taking public high school and college biology classes, and maybe fielding the nasty comment online or two on the occasion. No one has ever threatened to beat me for praying in public. So it's worth some internal investigation if our faith would stand up against a serious test. And if it wouldn't, and that challenge would strengthen your faith, is avoiding it really the best move for us and for our kids? Also, I'm a mom. I don't want my kids to have a hard time, but at the same time, it's really worth thinking about if keeping our kids from facing hardship when it comes to faith is the best move for them as future Jesus followers. Or at the very least, if that should be our biggest priority right now. And honestly, I think that's kind of what's happening now. However, the people who are more concerned about acting in a Christ-like way, honestly, I don't think at the end of the day would be so terribly concerned about putting those actions into legislation. Like I said in my other video, I completely understand wanting to avoid the possibility of persecution, and I don't want persecution. I don't want my kids to face persecution, but that's not really biblical from my understanding of scripture. We're going to be persecuted as Jesus followers. We're going to face tribulation and trials and all of that really great stuff. That's pretty much promised. And we're also not really called to stand up against policies that don't follow scripture. Obviously, if a law is forcing us or trying to force us to do something that is breaking God's laws, that is going against scripture, then we do not have to comply with it. But I would struggle to find examples of that, and I would love to see them if you have them. I'm totally fine if I am missing something, and I would love to see if you found something that I haven't seen, but I don't really see many, if any, examples of this. This being legislature that forces Christians to participate in behaviors that are contrary to scripture and therefore making us sin by following that law. What it seems to me is happening right now, and of course this is my opinion, this is my take on the situation, is it seems like Christians are trying to secure a sense of security for themselves by making it pretty much legislatively impossible to be persecuted, by paving the way for being a Christian and openly being a Christian to be easier. And is that completely a bad thing? No, of course not. Being able to read the Bible in public is pretty great, in my opinion. I like being able to pray openly. But like I also said in my last video, that should not be our top priority. Making following Jesus as easy as possible is a pretty bad priority number one to have. And I'm also more concerned about the people who don't follow Jesus and how these policies would affect them. Is it going to make them closer to Christ to force them to act in what the masses would consider to be a Christ-like fashion? No, I don't think so. And that to me weighs a lot more heavily than making it easier for me to loudly be a Christian.